Good evening. Welcome to the Mindset Think Tank podcast, where we explore the power of mindset to inspire resilience, creativity, and growth. I'm your host, Tina Dawson, and thank you for tuning in. Today, we will explore the art of code switching, how we adapt our communication behavior and identity to fit into different spaces. Our guest has used code switching as a tool to overcome challenges, build connections, and thrive in her personal and professional lives. Whether you've mastered the art of adaptation or just starting to unpack what it means, this episode will leave you with powerful insights and practical takeaways. I invite you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and invite others to let them know that we are on the air and to tune in and be inspired. Let's dive in. Help me give a warm welcome to tonight's guest, Miss Shyretta Palmer. Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Anytime.
How's the family? Everybody doing good?
Everybody's doing great. Looking forward to some holiday season and some time off from work.
Girl, we need it. I was talking to someone today, and she said, "Where has the time gone?" She said, "We're almost at the end of the year." And I do remember January. She said, but the rest of it was a blur.
For me, it's like once July came, I have no more memory. It's like July, then Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That's when the year just zip by.
Yeah, I am ready. I am ready for the holidays and some good food.
Amen to that.
Well, for those of you who don't know, Miss Shyretta Palmer has been on the show before, and she was on the show with her husband, Cal Palmer, and they were talking about effective communication in marriage. So tonight she is back to discuss with us the power of code switching. Shyretta, you want to start off by telling the viewers and the listeners a little bit about yourself?
All right. Well, I'm Shyretta Goins Palmer. I currently reside in Atlanta, Georgia. I have an amazing family, a blended family with myself, my 2 sons, and my husband, and our 3 other children, the bonus children. Very grateful and blessed. Currently, I work in the software arena where I am a business analyst / Scrum Master, and I am a proud Navy veteran.
All right. Thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
Okay. So when did you first become aware of the need of code switching? Was it in school, the workplace, or elsewhere?
It was really just watching adults around me. But the first time I myself was faced with the idea to utilize that was when I joined the military at 17.
Mm-hmm. 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 And what ways did you use it in the military?
Well, initially just being a young girl who grew up in the South and moving across the country and having to interact with lots of different people from different walks of lives and backgrounds, I just had to learn that I had to be able to adapt. So I needed to be able to talk to everybody in a universal language, but also remain true to myself.
Okay. And what is your definition of code switching?
My definition of code switching is changing your communication styles and your presentation for survival.
Okay. And that is very important because this is so ironic because I was talking to somebody today and we were talking about how some college graduates don't understand the power of code switching or the need to learn how to code switch, right?
Yes.
Because the way you communicate on your college campus or in different organizations that you're in, the language and the lingo that you have to use changes from environment to environment. And some people get it, some people don't. But when they're on the college campus and they come into the real world, some people think that they can carry that same lingo or that same way of surviving in that environment out here, and it doesn't translate.
No, I had a very similar conversation myself with my brother about the importance of code switching and how you have to be able to understand that you don't have to lose yourself in order to adapt to communicating and being around other people that may not be from your walk of life, but you have to be able to understand that if you want to effectively communicate with people, you have to meet them where they are.
Yeah,
universal place, no matter where you are in life and what arena you're in, there's a universal place where the language is the same.
Right. Correct. So can you describe a time when code switching was essential for navigating a challenging situation?
For me, the pivotal moment for me with the identity of code switching was when I got out of the Navy and I moved to Atlanta and I stepped into corporate America. It was necessary to learn how to deal in corporate spaces, because coming from the military and being able to kind of say whatever you want and be completely who you are, you had to learn that that doesn't work in the corporate private sector. So that was the ideal moment for me to be like, you're going to have to learn how to adapt and move and shape with people from different walks of life, because otherwise you will not be able to move ahead.
Did you notice that when you transitioned that your military life was a lot more structured and organized than the corporate sector?
Yes, it really was. So how I've been able to really manage and integrate both of those is I'm very regimented and I'm very structured. So everything has a time box. And I've been able to take that with me and bring that into my corporate life. But I definitely learned that lunch break is when you take it. It's not at noon every day, but I still go. 20 years later, I still go every day, 12:30.
Wow. Yeah. Have you ever seen any situations where maybe say employees didn't really understand the power of code switching, and because they didn't, it resulted in a maybe say an unpositive or non-positive situation for them because they didn't understand at that time they needed to switch?
I actually did experience that with a shipmate of mine that came into the corporate sector with me. Years later, she ended up working with me at a different company and she became one of my employees. She worked for me. And I was trying to coach her into being like, okay, girl, you can't say what you want to say all the time. You have to understand that you have to be able to meet in that sweet spot and be able to communicate with these people who are not from the Navy. So you can't get mad and just be like, well, I said what I said. That doesn't work. You have to be able to be like, I appreciate your ideas and I appreciate your opinion, but this is how I feel about this. This is my opinion. This is how I feel about it. And unfortunately, she didn't get the lesson and she got fired. She basically got up in a meeting and started banging her hands on the table and just went completely off. And I was like, yeah,
It's your last day.
I'm gonna have your back, but girl, we're gonna have a parking lot conversation because this is not gonna work for the future. This is done here, but for the future, you need to learn something. You can't do that.
Yeah, can't do that. And it's funny because a lot of people, and it could be you're working at the same company, but you get a different position. Yes. So you're totally in a different environment. And so what they may allow over here, they don't allow over here. And if you don't switch, it can cause you to get into a lot of trouble.
Like every team, that's fair. Like every team has a specific culture and the way they do things. And for her, she was basically coming directly from the military into a corporate job. So me and her had known each other prior to, but we never worked together as co-workers, supervisor. We didn't have that type of relationship. We just were people who knew each other prior to working at the same company. And I believe that she learned a lot from me. She moved on and she's been, from my knowledge, growing and building herself. And hopefully she's watching this podcast because she's seen it posted on social media. She's like, you're talking about me, because it was a struggle. It was a struggle.
She can laugh now, probably.
I'm sure she does laugh. We all have those moments where we had to like get burned and realize I can't do that next time. I can't do that next time.
Wow. Yeah, and coming from the military, that is a real structured environment. And sometimes I've seen it where people come from the military into corporate America, and because it's kind of lax compared to the military, people that are prior military get so irritated because, can't you be on time? You know, why you got dressed like that? You know, what is the slang? I don't understand. I don't understand what you're saying. You know, and then they just, like you
Yeah.
said, they just lose it because they've been in that structure for so long. They're like, why does everybody else not operate like this?
Yes. The one thing I can say that I get a lot is people saying, say what you have to say. I don't understand. So most of the people who I work with that are ex-military, we're all the same. We're like, just say what you have to say. Because I don't understand all this extra stuff. Just say what you have to say. Let's get to the point. We'll deal with the other stuff later, but get to the point.
Yeah, very direct, very direct to the point. And then if I need to get more information out of you, let me ask. Don't
Let me
give me the information up front. Just say what you got to say. I'll ask the supporting questions, and then we'll go forward. You all do not like fluff.
I like the fluff, and I try to give the fluff because I don't like for you to come back. I like to give you everything up front. But the other people I've worked with that are ex-military are like, that fluff doesn't work. That might be some new age, some millennial type of stuff y'all got going, because just tell me what I need to know.
Did you do your job? Yes, no.
Yep. Yes, no. Well, I went to lunch. No, that is not what I asked you. Did you do your job?
Well, you know, I'm from a military family, so I'm laughing because I feel the same way, you know. And then I don't like to repeat myself so many times, so I'll give instruction, and then I'll go back over the instruction to make sure that we are clear and what the directive is, right?
Yeah.
So if you miss it, I'm like, okay, what did I do? What did I do that you did not get?
Where did we go wrong? Where did we go wrong?
Yeah. Where did we?
Where did we go wrong? That's me. I'm like, where did we go wrong? Let's start over again.
Have you ever experienced code switching fatigue?
I don't think that I ever have.
Okay.
Because I really do try to keep a healthy balance of who I am always present. So even though I may learn how to talk and move and act around different audiences depending on who I'm in front of, I really try to always stay true to who I am. So I never have felt fatigue from code switching. And I think that's very important in code switching, to know that it's not a changing who you are and being fake around other people type of situation. It's really just learning how to communicate and how to present yourself in different audiences, because every place isn't appropriate for you to be, you know, Shyretta from round the way. That doesn't work everywhere. Sometimes I need to be Renee from corporate America, who knows how to talk to my coworkers and my employees respectfully.
That's too funny. Jenny around the block.
Jenny from around the block. Jenny from the block.
So, have you ever felt pressure to code switch to fit in or to be taken seriously?
I have had experiences where I had to learn how to turn it off and on in different spaces. And it really started as a young adult, because I got married young. I had my two sons pretty young. So learning that I'm 20 years old and I have like a 4-year-old, I have to know how to talk to real, in my mind, they were like real adults. So I had to learn how to talk to people who were 30 and 40 years old and have them respect me. And I couldn't go in there acting like a 20-year-old. I had to go in there acting like we are on the same playing field. So that was also another pivotal moment to learn that, okay, you have to learn how to grow up, boss up. And I don't even know if that's really considered code switching, but it was helpful, because if I didn't do it, I feel like lots of different opportunities that my children experienced when they were like in elementary school would have been different if I didn't learn that I need to present myself in the image that I want to be received.
Right. That's good. So let's speak to the young adult, maybe let's say 2022, about to get out of college, right? And you're about to go into corporate America, and I call it the real world. What are some things that you feel that they should know about preparing themselves for the transition?
One key thing that I say is to always make sure you stay true to who you are.
Mm-hmm.
That is very important, because you have to wake up every day and live with yourself. So trying to be somebody else is never going to work. So always make sure that you understand, stay true to you, never lose yourself in the shuffle.
Right.
But in saying that, it's also important to understand that you have to be able to communicate and present yourself to the masses the way you want to be received. And I have a little saying that I say it to my homegirl all the time. And the saying is, you need to act like and show up like the money you want to make. So with that being said, you have to make sure if you're trying to aspire to be a CEO or the president or just the boss of whatever you're doing, make sure you show up that way. And that may be a code switch, because at home you may be, you know, the sweet, demure partner who goes with the flow. You're very passive. But if that's not what you're trying to be at work, then make sure you show up. You present what you want. So that would be my advice to any young person. I've said it to the kids as well. Show up like the money you want to make.
Correct. Yeah. I would tell you the story. So I was working at Nations Bank. You know, they're not open anymore. They got bought out. Blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I was working at Nations Bank, and I was administrative assistant. And the UPS guy came in, and he said, "Guess who I saw today? Guess who I delivered a package to today?" And we were like, "Who?" And he said, "You know, the tall one of the Yin Yang twins."
Okay.
And I was like, "I know who you're talking about, but where did you deliver the package?" And he said it was some ritzy part of Georgia. He rung the doorbell. And when the guy opened the door, he said he almost dropped the box. And the guy he was just laughing because he knew why he was shocked.
Yeah.
And he said, "Man, that's entertainment. That's not who I am at all." He said, "This is me." And they got to chatting and stuff like that. And he said, "That is the nicest guy." He said, "But just what you see in the video, you assume that that's the lifestyle." And he said that man was in a ritzy part of Atlanta, well put together. So a lot of people that are on social media, back then we have social media, but back, you know, that are on social media need to realize that there's a difference between you know, the entertainment industry and who that person really is. Because if they're going into the bank and they're trying to get money or funding for whatever project that they're in, they don't look the way they do when they're at their job, which is in the entertainment industry, right?
Yes.
They put on a suit or they dress professionally to come in front of these people to talk about money. Why? Say you're saying again.
Because you got to show up like the money you're trying to make.
So we're covering this because I think that is so key.
It is. And a lot of people don't get it. You know, just to kind of piggyback off that, I had a conversation with my brother earlier today, and we were talking about the importance of doing that. And the key takeaway from that conversation with him goes back to code switching. And he was just like, you can be free and be content with who you are in life. And I can accept that, but you can't force me to accept what you just said and give you what you want. You don't get to control how I see you and how I experience you. So that's why it's important to understand when it's time to code switch and when it's not, because if you present something in a way and it doesn't go the way you want it to go, you can't get mad at the audience if what you gave them wasn't appetizing.
Right.
You know?
Right. Because you are in control of the image that you put out.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So when I asked you that other question, one of the first things you said was a person needs to stay true to who they are. Mm-hmm. Let's talk to the person who is on that journey of finding who they are. Mm-hmm. And they haven't really embraced it or really got to define. They haven't defined it yet. What are some things that people can do that are on that journey of finding themselves? What can they do? Can you have any tips of them in the journey of finding themselves?
I think it's important to sit with yourself and take some time alone. Take a sabbatical where you're not dealing with anybody and you're only dealing with yourself, and really get to know what you like and what you don't like, what you want to be and what you don't want to be. How do you want people to see you? Right. And build from there. Don't expect anybody to show you or give you the blueprint. You're really going to have to do the personal inner work to have an understanding of who you are and what you want to be. So my number one key is take time to give yourself what you need, because any other way you're going to be giving everybody else in the world who they want to show up.
Yeah.
So you really have to take the time to get deep down and understand who you are.
Right. What have you learned about yourself through the process of code switching?
I have learned that I can find a healthy balance in being who I am, like my authentic self, and being the person that I present to the world. And what I mean by that is, the way I see myself is I'm down to earth. I'm somebody that's going to tell you the truth, even if it hurts your feelings. And I have to work on sometimes that delivery, but at the end of the day, I'm direct and I'm going to be honest. And I know that in every group, in every audience, that's not what you need to do. Right. So I've learned that I like being able to do both. I like being able to take my authentic self and the code switch version of myself, which we call Renee. I like to be able to understand that I can be both of those at the same time and still be Shyretta.
Right.
They're both Shyretta.
Right.
And I appreciate the journey that got me to that place. So sometimes I turn Shyretta on more than I turn Renee on. I know when to do both. And then sometimes Renee shows up and you get a good combination of the two.
Oh my goodness. That is too funny. But you're right. Yeah. You're right. You know, in code switching, I've learned that in finding who I am, I had to realize what my non-negotiables were.
Yes.
Right. Because even though there's times that you have to code switch to be in another environment to be heard and seen, in those environments when you have to do that, disrespect is not going to happen. Right. And so I've had to learn that whatever my character, morals, and values are, and the things that I believe in, it's okay to have, and it's okay to take up for me. And you know, sometimes people say respect is earned, and in certain situations that's true, but in some situations, respect is demanded.
Yes.
You know, and so even though you have to code switch, and you were saying stay true to yourself, that's part of staying true to yourself.
Yes.
Right. Not allowing certain things to happen to damage you, just because you have to code switch into another environment.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, because I'm also one of these people that's very big on respect. And I agree that respect is earned. But at the same time, I feel like there's a beginning point where I meet you. I respect you because I've just met you. You've given me no reason to be disrespectful or disrespect you. But I totally agree. Being able to code switch, the key rule is stay true to yourself, but also make sure respect yourself.
Right.
That's the key thing. You have to respect yourself, because that's one thing. If you don't do it, other people are not going to do it for you.
Right.
So if you show up as somebody, a doormat, you're a doormat. You're going to get walked on. You're going to get trampled, and you can't blame nobody but yourself, because you did not set the boundary and the standard that respect is a non-negotiable. A non-negotiable.
Yeah, I was.
Or disrespect. I'm sorry, is a non-negotiable.
Yeah, the last job I had a cube mate, and in this environment, we were the only two minority. And when I first came on the scene, I was a temp. And so I told them that, let me explain to you right now, I just have two non-negotiables. I said, number one, you're not going to talk to me any kind of way. We're all adults, and there's a way for you to say what you have to say. So you can be heard and it can be received, and we can get to the common goal. We're all here for a common goal. And I said, number two, I don't take the fall for something I did not do. So everything else I can work with. But those two, non-negotiable.
And that's not code switching. That's showing up as Tina.
So the lady, the young lady next to me, some time went by, and she said with tears in her eyes, and she said, "Why they don't bother you? They only bother me because you just mentioned doormat."
Mm-hmm.
And she said they don't bother you, but they're always bothering me. And I laughed and I said, you're on your journey of self-discovery. And once you discover who you are and you understand what you bring to the table, you'll get it.
Yeah.
Right. And things will start to change for you. And I worked there for 5 years. And at the end, she had finally got it. And shortly after I left, she put in an application for another job and got it.
That's good for her. That's good.
Yeah, she did. And I just worked with her on just just learning who she is and her self-identity and her self-respect. You know, it not being able to not taking the disrespect because of money and you need the job. I understand you need the job. But if you know the value of your skills, if you know your skill set, you can get a job anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Because you're marketable.
Mm-hmm.
And she had to understand all of that. And when I talked to her today, we laughed about it. And she was like, I thank you so much. I said, I'm not taking up for you. You're going to fight. You're going to fight because this is a bigger picture. So, you know, I'm glad that you mentioned you have to know who you are. That is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Because people will manipulate the situation when they know that they can get away with it.
Yes.
Right? Because they know who to deal with and who they don't. So another good thing about the power of code switching is when they see that you can switch from those environments, you start to gain respect.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And I'm going to say it's very good to hear you talk about, you know, being able to teach other people, because that was something I did want to discuss during this interview. Was I think that it's very important to make sure that you educate younger people on the importance of being able to code switch, because I see a lot of like people that are my kids' age in their early 20s and, you know, even younger than them, and they have this whole opinion of, I'm going to show up as me, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. And I'm like,
and that's what she did.
That's not going to work.
That's what she
not
did.
going to work.
Yep, that's what she did. She was real nice and, you know, cared about everybody. And, you know, if you tell her, I don't celebrate birthdays, well, you won't celebrate the birthday today. That's her. Okay. You know, that's her, but she wants everybody to feel a part and, you know, engaged. And she's just a genuine, nice person. But that may be who you are at 222 Butler Street.
Yes.
But when you get off that bus and come in here, you have to have that off the ego where you switch it on and I'm professional. Let's go.
You know, that's funny because there was a time during, I don't want to get political here, but there was a time during the election. I want to say it was during the DNC where Kamala Harris got dragged. She got dragged because media had portrayed her as being too ethnic when she talked to certain groups of people, and then not ethnic is what we're going to call it when she was around other groups of people. And I felt like that was the epicenter for people to learn about what code switching really is, because when she was in that audience talking to those people at the DNC, she presented to them in the way in which she was talking to her friends and family. Right. When she shows up on the campaign trail, we are friends, but we're not family. So I have to treat you like friends. Everybody doesn't get the same treatment. I think that it was the perfect example of what code switching is. And I hope that younger people watch that, because it was textbook and she did it so well. And she's always the same, but she definitely shows up and you know who's there when they show up. Right. You know who's there. Right. Right. Yeah. When she, on her birthday, she was at my church on her birthday. And so the speech that she gave at our church was, you know, directed to, it was created, right, for the audience that she had to give a speech to. That's code switching. Yes. Yes. Right. And if she's going to rural Montana, the speech is going to be different. Yeah. Because it's a different audience of people. It's the same thing. It's a universal sweet spot that is going to work in every group of people. And I think that's the part that people really have to understand. And that's the cornerstone of code switching is there is a language and there is a behavior that is universal. And that language shows up when you are not in your element. That's who you present when you're not in your element, when you're not just hanging with your friends and family and, you know, whoever, your circle, your bubble. You bring the cookie cutter version. You bring that universal soldier to the table, and that person shows up, because otherwise people are going to be completely lost and confused as to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
What are you trying to get to achieve here? I'm sorry. What are you trying to achieve? Because otherwise I'm lost.
I noticed here recently that I was in an environment and I knew that it's so funny. I was just talking to somebody about this. So I knew that in this environment, for me to be heard, I had to sit in a chair a certain way. The tone of my voice had to be a certain way. And the cadence of my words had to be a certain way to get the attention of the people in this room.
Mm-hmm.
It worked. But it worked, right? Because I got hurt. And so before I walked in that room, talked to some people, the conversation was totally different.
Yeah.
But in order for me to be heard in this room, and people think, we just can't all get along and just be able to be who we are. That's just not how the world of society is. It just isn't, right?
No.
And I was just thinking about some of the African American women that have made it to top level positions in the NBA and NFL.
Mm-hmm.
They've been doing articles about that, and how they had code switch, because that's a white male dominant industry.
Yes.
And here you are, a professional Black female. What did they have to go through?
Mm-hmm.
To be able to rise to the top, to get those positions. So, I think that I totally agree with you that there's a way that you can balance it and learn the power of code switching without losing yourself.
And that's when you know you're doing it successfully. When you don't have to feel like you've lost yourself or you've become somebody you don't know. It's like, I'm always the same person. I truly feel like that's why code switching is kind of like very natural for me to do, because I'm always the same person. I just understand that universally I'm gonna have to tweak some things, because that doesn't work for every audience and every group of people that I'm in. So I'm gonna have to learn how to bring the universal language when I show up in certain spaces, because regardless, in all honesty, it's always going to work. It's always going to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. If someone struggles with balancing authenticity and adaptation, that's a tongue twister for me. What advice would you give them?
Authenticity and adaptation. That one is going to have to go back to personal growth, because you're going to stumble a little bit on trying to find the balance between the two, but you have to know how to just do it effortlessly. I feel like in ways, Black women especially, we get stereotyped in a fashion of being angry and loud and all the things, that are undesirable for any group of people. And we just have to learn how to effortlessly present ourselves. And that's just something that you're kind of born with. Some people are born with it, and some people have to develop the skill sets. Yeah. And I just feel like it goes back to what makes you comfortable. And that's pretty much it for me. If you're not comfortable doing it, you can never adapt. So if the code switch is taking you to a place where you cannot be any part of who you are, that is not a space for you. You don't belong here.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes we have to, get to the place where, is it my character, morals and values, or the money?
Yep. Or these affiliations with different types of people. That's very true. Like, you have to take a stock of you're authentically who you are. And that's a fair one to say, because I'm very much in the place in life where I want to get paid, but I'm not going to chase money and chase things that are going to go against my morals and my beliefs just to get there. So I'm not going to become somebody who somebody else wants me to be, and then totally forget who I am and can't recognize who I am.
Right.
So my advice to somebody who is struggling with that If it doesn't feel right, if it feels like you are losing who you are in a situation, take a step back, assess if it's testing your morals, your beliefs, your boundaries. And if it is, wash your hands of it. Because in some situations, and lots of situations I've seen where when you find yourself backed up against that wall and you've lost sight of who you are and what you deem who you are, you know, your present, your idea of who you are.
Right.
When you say, hey, that's not going to work to whoever it is, I'm going to need for you to understand that I'm me and this is not working for me. The way you're talking to me is not working for me. Like you said, usually you get the respect that you want it, or the person's going to tell you, they'll take you off the hook and be like, you know what, this ain't working for me neither. So you go ahead and live your life, girl. You do whatever makes you happy. But that's a step towards what's for you.
Yeah.
Because there's no point in staying in a situation and you cannot be, you have to totally be somebody that's different.
Right.
And that's like I said, I go back to, that's so important when we talk about code switching, is that you have to always keep sight of who you are, regardless of who you're around.
Yeah. Wow. Have you ever seen a situation where people were, not yourself, but maybe others, that had the code switch so much that they were just exhausted and it started to wear on their mental health or the physical health?
I've seen people contort themselves to be the image of other people. And most of the times that I've seen it, unfortunately, haven't been in professional settings. It's been in emotional and personal relationships where they're trying to appease a mate or a friend group or whatever. And they basically wear themselves out trying to make everybody else happy. And that's another rule that I live by, is that I am never going to make anybody else more happy than I am making myself. Yeah. Nobody gets that right. If I am unhappy, how can I make other people happy?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I have seen people just burn themselves out trying to make themselves be the ideal image of what other people want. And it's a sad thing to see. And I've never been able to necessarily help someone find their way out of that. Usually they take that season, that winter arc of time to themselves to reset, regrow, reboot themselves, and they'll come back and be like, hey, you know I was going through some rough times. And I was like, now you're back. You who we love. You're our friend, girl. Come on back.
We've got a viewer that said, awesome, great advice. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you all have any comments or questions for Shyretta, please put them in the chat area, and we will make sure that she can answer them live while she is on the show. And also make sure that you subscribe and share and like the broadcast and the YouTube channel. But yeah, this is a good conversation. I'm enjoying it. Let's see. Can you share a proud moment when navigating a complex situation through code switching? When you've navigated a complex situation through code switching?
I can. This was in corporate America when I shifted from being in the Navy to having my first big girl job, my first real big girl job. And I had a manager that I worked with that was, even though I showed up, I guess I kind of showed up like the young lady that you talked about, to where I was just nice. I knew how to code switch, but I didn't know how to gain my power in that. I thought that code switching was basically just me contorting myself to some degree to assimilate into an environment that didn't necessarily feel the most comfortable at times. And she would do things that would be nitpicky, or she wanted to be always in the loop on everything that I was doing. And one day I had to just be like, girl, okay, I had to just be like, I can't even talk to you in a code switch anymore. Now I have to bring the whole authentic me. And that was where I found my power in code switching and being like, okay, for me, I think it's important to understand that you are working towards a goal. Okay. And don't lose sight of that goal regardless of what's going on around you. But again, you're not gonna walk over me and treat me any kind of way. I'm gonna speak the universal language, and I'm gonna do the things that need to be done to get this thing done. But I think that that's very important, at least for me, in the code switch, was to be like, hey, I gotta switch the code back. I gotta understand back to authentic Shyretta, because what you're trying to do is make me who you want me to be, and that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
So that was, I'm being honest, that was like a really complex time because I was young. I was struggling with, finding my own rhythm and learning how to incorporate myself, a lot more of myself, should I say, or the outspoken parts of myself into the universal language that I wanted to portray out. So it was very hard. And it didn't, I'm gonna be honest, it wasn't something that came overnight. It took about 5 or 6 years for me to be able to fully integrate into email, phone calls, face-to-face conversations, group settings, and be able to be like, I can be both. I can be both. Like I said, that's why I say it's very important to understand with code switching, never become too much of what's not you.
Right.
What's not authentically who you are.
Right. So some people, you mentioned email. Let's talk a little bit about having to code switch in an email conversation. That is important. So let's talk a little bit about that. That's good.
Because we all know, anybody that's worked in corporate America, been a student at a school, and you got any type of business, you've been typing the email and somebody's been getting cursed out. And you have to take a moment and be like, I'm not going to send it. I'm going to read it. I'm going to save it in draft. I'm going to take a name out. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to write this down. I'm going to message this out, type this email up in a fashion to where I am putting that universal language first. So in the Navy, there's a saying, well, in the military, I think everybody says there's a saying where it's very respectfully. Before we go off, we always say very respectfully. So for me, I have like certain keywords in my emails that are basically dog whistles that it's about to go somewhere. It's about to go somewhere I'm not ready for. So if I say very respectfully or per our last message, that is when the switch goes back. But I think it's important, like I said, to take a moment and decompress. Don't send that first thought.
Yeah.
Don't send the first thought. And sometimes you have to be considerate of what other people are going through, what they're dealing with. So just because you want to flip the switch doesn't mean you have to. And that's also, in my opinion, part of code switching, is because you have to have a level of empathy.
Yes.
So even though you're just having this, universal language of let me speak to you with respect, let me speak to you with dignity, let me not be disrespectful, let me be calm, you also have to have empathy. That's another like trait that you have to be able to incorporate into your universal language, because otherwise it's really just, it's flat. Like there's no emotion if you do not implement empathy or just feelings as a whole. Because like I said, all the other things, dignity, respect, all those things they're strong and they're stoic and people see them as that. But if you do not add empathy, sympathy, compassion into that universal language, it doesn't work. I'm not going to say what I'm thinking, but it just makes you a horrible individual.
Yeah.
It just makes you a horrible individual.
Yeah. Like you said, just being able to say what you want to say and without even no thought behind it. I end up learning while I was in corporate America, I end up learning that when you're sending an email, then I transferred this to in my personal life, right? And I tried it on my children and it works. So less is better.
Less is much better. Less
is better. And so there's times, that's why I was laughing, I was doing this, because there's times that I've gone off and I've said, can't say that. And I said, and then can't say that.
Yeah. Like I said, that goes, like you said, having the keep it short and simple.
Yeah. It's hard sometimes.
Sometimes it is. That's why I go back to like I'm going to have receipts.
Yeah.
That's part of who I authentically am. So I bring that to my code switch. You're going to have all the receipts you need to have. But like I said, I think that if you are a miserable person in your regular life, in your code switch, you can't be that, because it's not going to be effective. Like you have to have, like you said, feelings of sympathy, compassion, empathy. You have to have that in there.
Yeah. But you have to care about the new environment that you're in, and present yourself accordingly. Let me say it like that.
Yes.
What does thriving mean to you in the context of adapting to different environments?
Thriving to me basically means that I don't have to lose myself.
Okay.
Like I don't have to lose myself, and I don't have to cut my friends and my circle in whatever environment I am short for any reason, because I feel like I will be doing them a disservice if I show up as somebody who I'm not.
Yeah.
So I feel like thriving is me showing up as my authentic self and presenting to the audience, friends or whoever, the best that I got to offer. The best of Shyretta is going to show up every time. I'm never, even when I'm hangry, I'm not going to show up less than. I'm going to show up as my authentic true self. And for me, thriving is knowing that when I left that area, I made an impact on who somebody in that group is like, she's all right. I like her.
Mm-hmm.
Even that's a personal and work thing, because being around at work in corporate environments or professional situations, if people don't like you, you're not getting ahead. Mm-hmm. So if I show up as my true self and I leave and I've given you the universal language, I've done all of the things that I could do right, I feel like I've won. I'm thriving. Even if I'm not necessarily getting the outcome that I want. Mm-hmm. I have to look at other things in that situation. But as long as I am true to who I am, and like I said, I get the ear of one person in that space that can speak on my behalf, I'm thriving.
Mm. That's good. That's good. Do you have any last minute tips for the viewers and listeners?
Well, my last minute tips is, I've been saying it pretty much this entire time, and that's just always be who you are. Always be who you are, because I'm a firm believer in that you have one life and it's yours to live. You can't live it for alter egos, family members, or whoever. So one of the biggest things in code switching and just existing is always having a grasp of who you are. And that can change. Like, you're not guaranteed that you from yesterday or you in 2024 is going to be you in 2025. Mm-hmm. So you have to be willing and open to change. Mm-hmm. So be open to change, be true to yourself, and don't let people define who you are, because the only person can make that happen is you.
Right. Speak a little bit about taking the time to learn the importance of code switching, so that it could help you on your journey of life. Right? It could help advance you in your journey of life. So talk a little bit about the importance of learning the skill of code switching. And yeah.
To me, it's almost like plants. If you think about plants, if plants don't have sunlight, they will die. If they don't have water, they will die. If they don't have things to eat, they will die. And in staying stagnant and not necessarily understanding that, you have to be willing to change and you have to be willing to adapt to certain environments, because just because you're not watering a plant, if it rains, when the dew hits it, it's going to get some water. If it's overcast, but it's not sunny, that plant's going to get a little bit of light. So it's going to learn how to grow. And with that being said, you have to be able to adapt and change in situations, because otherwise you stay the same. There's a saying lots of religious people say, and the saying is, prayer without work is dead. And I feel like in life, you have to kind of take that with you. If you are just running your mouth and not necessarily taking the time to learn how to talk to people, present yourself the way you want those people to see you, and in doing so, still make sure you stay true to who you are, you're not doing the work. So I'm not going to say never, but it's not going to improve the way in which you think it will if you don't take the necessary steps to learn who you are, how you want to present yourself, and what you want to receive back.
Right. So it's an essential skill in your personal and business growth.
It really is. And I think that we, as real adults, we have to be willing to tell our kids this, because like I said, a lot of people feel like, I know people who are in their 30s and they're just like, well, I'm me and you have to accept me as I am. And I'm like, I have to accept you, but that doesn't mean you're going to get what you're asking me for. I accept you being what you are, but that does not change the fact that I don't think that this job is for you, or I don't think that you deserve to get this loan, like you said. Like, I don't have to do those things. I need for you to put forth some effort. And to me, code switching it can be deemed effort. It's the effort you put into being able to communicate with other people, be it verbal communication, physical communication, visual communication, written communication. It's effort. If you don't put the effort in, you're not going to get back what you think you're going to get back. And if you do, that's luck, because that is not constant. That's not a consistent thing that you can bank on.
Right, right. I want to share this story with you while we're at the end of the show. And it's a story of someone who did not code switch.
Okay.
They stayed the same. They stayed too true. Who they were. And so I'm gonna make the story kind of brief. So there's a gentleman goes to college, engineering major, and he gets intern. So when they do the intern, they give him little small things to do, and he was able to do those small things, and he was real good as an intern. Mm-hmm. And so they extended him an offer to come work for them full time when he graduated.
Okay.
So he graduated. Oh, and the other thing was majority of the work that they gave him was remote.
Oh, that's good. That sounds good.
Yeah, majority of he came in every now and then, but majority of the task he had to do was remote. So they extended him a job offer, and now he's starting to work with them face to face. Mm-hmm. So he goes through HR. They set the expectations of the job, and he's working there a couple of weeks, and then this is when I found out about the situation. So one of their big no-nos is being late. Okay. They're flexible. So if they're flexible, why are you late? Mm-hmm. So he's late. And so his project manager tells somebody else, and so they bring him in and they talk to him. And they say, what's going on? Why do you have to keep being late? And he said he was getting up late. And so he was spending all this money in Uber and blah, 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 blah. They were like, what do you got to do with you being late? You gotta stop being late. So this is on Friday, right? So you got Friday, you got Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Mm-hmm. Monday, he was late again. So they bring him in and they said, we just had a conversation with you on Friday. Yeah. Why are you late today? He said, I had to get my hair braided. Now, you're us. Yeah. And you're talking to them. You don't understand. So they were like, I don't understand. What do you mean you had to get your hair braided? Well, I got my hair braided this morning, so I'm late. Wow. So it threw them off. It threw off the employers. We don't understand this, right? Why you didn't get your hair done this weekend? Exactly. Right? So then after that, they told him, they gave him so many chances. So many chances. So you know what ended up happening? They had to go. Mm-hmm. Right? It got so bad. They really wanted to keep him. It got so bad. They called his mom. Oh, wow. And they now most employers won't do this. No. And they called his mom and said that we're really concerned. Maybe some things going on. We didn't get this from him from an intern, but he wasn't in office. So, okay. So they ended up calling the mom, and the mom tried to talk to him, and no go. So, he ended up losing his job. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up to sum up our conversation is because it goes back to what I told you about that workshop you and I are going to do from college to corporate. Okay. Because the mentality that you have in one environment, you cannot bring that into another. No. And I think it's really important that you study, and there's ways you can do it because we're in the social media area, right? Yes. There's ways that you can study what it takes or study how to adapt in another environment. One way you can do that is find someone that's already working in that environment and have conversations with them. Mm-hmm. Right? And then you can pull it up. Now you got Chat GPT, you got they got Instagram, they got
Threads.
They got Threads.
Yeah.
They got Facebook. So you have to take that extra step and that extra that extra step to find out these things so that you're already prepared before you get in those environments. Right? And
Yeah.
then that way you can start preparing yourself on how to code switch, adjust, adapt in those different environments. And I think what happens is people don't do their due diligence before they go into the environment, and they just take Shyretta into the environment, but you should have taken Renee. But you didn't know because you didn't do your work. So I'm gonna let you talk about that.
You know, I'm gonna say I can relate to this young man because again, coming out of being in the Navy as a young lady, I find myself fired from a job because I showed up at Shyretta and I did not understand code switching. I didn't have anybody telling me, give me advice. All of my friends are in their 20s like me. They're not working in the corporate setting. They're working in the warehousing and restaurants or whatever, or still looking for jobs that are in school. So I went on this job and I can speak freely about it. I didn't know how to code switch. And I'm talking to my coworker like we friends because we both talking trash like the business owner, his wife, like we are dragging these people. And the owner of the business fired me on my day off. Cena. And that was another time I was like, okay, you know what? Rule number one, co-workers are not friends. Co-workers are co-workers. They can become friends, but they are not your friends. Learn that first. But after that situation, like I said, bits and pieces of things, I learned from there that I have to know how to not be Shyretta.
Right.
Let me not say not be Shyretta. I have to learn how to present Shyretta in a way that's palatable, that's universal, that everybody can understand. And disrespect is not it. I was disrespectful to his wife. I'm not. Now I can look back and say, I was disrespectful to her, Tina. I was so bad. And I'm not sorry for it because I meant what I said. But if I had somebody to tell me, don't talk trash about this lady at work, at very least, don't do that. I might have been still illegal. I might have been a paralegal lawyer by now. Don't know.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. So sweet. I just can't
it doesn't take a lot, but it takes a lot. It takes a lot. And I was at the limit with her. And like you said, these people didn't call my mother and tell her anything. They didn't call my husband. They didn't call anybody. They were like, you don't know how to act in a corporate setting, you're fired. But I think it's important. It's important because that young man was probably really great for his job. And just because you didn't know that, you can't tell your employee you went and got your hair braided this morning. Like, come on. I said some of that comes with maturity, not just I shouldn't have said that part, but the being late part is one of these things where it's like, I should have grew up in that. If you had said, you know what, the bus is always late on my route, that's a lie. But I'm like, at the end of the day, that's better than I'm waking up late or I'm getting my hair.
Let me tell you, because when he got his hair done, he showed up in braids.
And said that it happened this morning. I said, that's a maturity thing, Tina. But again, he told these people who don't understand braiding that I'm going to get my hair braided this morning. I'm like,
And he did nothing up.
Yeah, because he probably thought if I'm talking to Tina, she gonna understand. But I'm like, Tina understand, but that ain't gonna do the work. I'm just sending you to be on time.
I'm talking to Tina.
People like, get your hair braided. It takes 5 minutes to braid my daughter's hair. It don't take 3 and 4 hours to be late to work.
You and I are definitely we're gonna get together. We're gonna put it together, and we're gonna go on the road in the beginning of the year and talk to these high school students and these college students. Because going from high school to college is one shift. And then you're in that setting for 4 more years. And then going from college to corporate is a totally different setting.
Yes.
Is a totally different setting. And what is okay in one setting is not okay in another. And you really shouldn't think that it is. until you get in that setting and you find out that it is okay, totally different. But you have to present yourself in a certain way to be able to be taken seriously and to advance yourself. And part of doing that is learning the skill of code switching.
It really is. It really is. It really is very important. And I think that as a society, we have to really start teaching our youth, young adults. And like I said, I think this is a really great opportunity because, like I said, if somebody had told me 20 years ago, they'll talk about this man wife at work, he had a totally different career path. And to be able to give somebody the lessons that I wish somebody gave me would be honestly a great gift for me to give back, because I really think that it's important to make sure we teach our youth that it's important to understand you have to learn how to code switch.
Yeah. Now, you promised to tell that story.
I will tell the meat and potatoes of that story, Tina, the whole story.
I just got to make sure I don't start laughing before you do.
You can laugh during the story because I'm going to laugh because it's funny now, but it wasn't funny then. Sorry for the day off. That's not funny.
You tell that story. These students going to always remember you, Shyretta.
I will tell that story.
Well, Shyretta, thank you so much for sharing your insight on how to code switch to overcome challenges and achieve success. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
I enjoyed talking to you, Tina. Thank you so much for having me.
To the viewers and the listeners, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and join us next time for more perspectives and strategies to elevate your journey. Thank you for tuning in. Stay connected, keep growing, and we'll see you on the next episode. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.